Root pruning is an essential task to improve turf health and golf course aesthetics. Trees produce new roots that eventually stress the surrounding turf, so it is necessary to prune the tree roots regularly to maintain good turf quality. Patrick Sisk is the golf course superintendent at Milwaukee Country Club in River Hills, Wisconsin. He talks about why it is important to root prune trees on golf courses.
We constantly have to struggle and learn how to manage trees and turf and have them cohabitate in some reasonable fashion. So part of the compromise is we go through a process called root pruning, where we shear off the roots of the trees that are competing with turf in hopes that we do not damage the tree, and we've got a method down that's pretty solid in minimizing the impact on the tree. And as a result, we get a denser, higher quality stand of turf.
Surface roots in the turf can be a sign that root pruning is needed.
Surface roots pose a problem so far as playing the game and the rules of the game. So, in an effort to have a higher quality stand of turf, we need to go through this necessary step.
There are several steps to the process of root pruning in order to successfully stop the spreading of tree roots.
The first step we did was identify where our irrigation lines are. Once those were identified and the sprinkler heads in the vicinity, they were all marked. As an insurance policy, we turned off the lateral valve that leads toward that irrigation, and then we were ready to go. We assembled all the necessary tools and marked out the line that we were to trench, which we found 3 times the diameter of the width of the tree is a very good distance so far as shearing off any roots that may impact play and quality of turf while not damaging the tree itself.
Sisk and his crew prefer to cut closer to the tree and away from the drip line to minimize the spread of new roots.
The pruning on the drip line was a standard method of root pruning years ago. I subsequently have attended a number of seminars that showed the roots, the diameter of the roots out toward the drip line are rather fine in diameter, meaning under an inch in diameter. A few arboriculture professors have shown that pruning anything under 1 inch in diameter sends off, for lack of a better description, a distress signal to the plant, where at that point they send off multiple roots as a result. So by moving that cut closer to the tree, we're pruning larger diameter roots that, although they stabilize the tree to some extent, they do not regenerate as quickly as the smaller diameter roots. We're not doing full circle. We're working right now on what we would call the in-play side of the tree. We'll allow that to settle in for a few years before we do the outside of play or the back side of the tree, in order to maintain stability of the tree. In many cases, we'll remove the turf prior to trenching, and that defines our trench line. However, in this circumstance, the turf was so thin and of such poor quality, and there were so many surface roots, we opted to just simply cut through it, and we'll use a combination of sod and seed to finish off the project.
Pruning takes effect about 10 to 12 inches under the turf surface, but sometimes you may have to go deeper to get at the larger roots.
You cut to a depth, it varies from tree to tree, but below the larger roots that we're trying to cut through. So we went down about 2.5 feet, in this case on this silver maple.
A trencher is used to cut through the roots. Sometimes the roots are too big, so an alternative tool is required.
Sometimes you just have to skip over some of these larger roots if your trencher can't handle it. In that case, we go back with either a chainsaw, or today we used an axe to cut through the remaining root.
Once the trench has been cut, there is some minor cleanup of smaller roots.
Once the trench has been cut, we'll go through with some loppers and just shear off the remaining roots, and that doesn't necessarily do anything so far as guaranteeing the success of the project. It's a way for us to easily backfill, because those roots create such a fibrous mat. It's difficult to get the soil back in, so we just make it an open ditch for the soil. We backfill the spoils that are outside the trench. We simply just push it back in and tamp it, not too heavily. We just go over it once or twice with a packer, and then refill it to the surface.
Trees are constantly producing new roots that stress the surrounding turf. It is necessary to prune tree roots regularly to maintain good turf quality.